Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Renee and welcome. I wanted to do a follow-up to the video that I released about 1 week ago, and that video was titled How to Fill Up Your Own Cup, and sort of talking about the beginning way of how to heal from codependency, how to fill yourself up inside of you. And after I shot that video, I had so many more ideas of things I could say, so this is sort of the part 2 to that. In that video, what I talked about was one of the hallmarks was to mention that if someone is told that they need to learn how to fill up their own cup, or that everything they need is within them, for some people that can be very, very scary, because that's like being kicked off the curb. They have no framework for how to do that. They don't have the tools yet to do that. So I wanted to get more into that and give you some very practical things that you can do. First, and just to recap a little bit, codependency is, as I said in the last video, it's coming from a place of lack. It's lack all, overall. I was gonna say all over. It's coming from this place of not being enough. Not being enough just as you are all by yourself, that you need someone or something or both from outside of yourself to give you validation, to give you love, to give you a sense of self-worth. The other thing is that codependency is at its core is a deficit of self-love. And the pursuit of, the fallout or the response to that lack of self-love is the incredible strong pursuit to go out and get that from external sources. And that's the problem. So if we can then learn to love ourselves, we can heal codependency. If we can learn that we are enough, we are good enough as we are, that we are whole and complete, we can heal this. So if as being codependent, we are perpetually feeling like I have to be in a relationship, I have to be in a relationship, I have to be in a relationship, otherwise I can't live, I can't handle being alone, then what we're doing is we're trying to make that relationship fill us up. We're trying to make that relationship give us what we are not giving to ourselves. So we are using that to fill a void within ourselves instead of learning that we can cultivate that within ourselves and then go into a relationship being whole and complete and the other person being whole and complete. But if we go into a relationship feeling empty and saying, well, I'm feeling needy and desperate and lonely and I need this relationship to make me feel good, then we have just dumped a whole bunch of conditions and strings attached to this relationship, that we're giving our power to this other person and holding them responsible for our needs, when actually it's a setup. I mean, no relationship can survive like that, or if it does, it's not going to be a healthy relationship. And instead, we need to learn how to do this for ourselves. Everyone has to learn to be, that you are okay in your own skin, that you are lovable, and you are worthy of loving yourself first. You have to give this to yourself. And just as that quote goes, you can only love someone else as much as you love yourself, I think is very, very true. Because if you don't love yourself and you're looking for someone else to give that to you, and then they leave, where does that leave you? Or if they don't love you in the way that you're looking for, or they love you, but they also abuse you, or they manipulate you, or do other stuff, you're going to accept that because you're like, oh, at least I'm getting some love, at least I'm getting some breadcrumbs, at least I'm getting a little bit of love, but you're also agreeing and accepting a lot of pain because you haven't learned to love yourself, and you're gonna grasp onto any scrap that you can get. And that's not fair to you. That's not loving to you. That's not respecting you. So we have to start by loving ourselves first and giving ourselves the respect that we deserve. It always starts with us. And if our outside world is reflecting all of this chaos and drama and all these things that are unhealthy for us, we got to look back at ourselves and say, what am I doing to contribute to this situation? What am I doing that maybe is allowing this? Because if we I always mix this up. We teach other people how to treat us. Then how am I maybe allowing someone else's bad behavior into my life and saying, it's okay to treat me that way. I'll keep taking it and I'll keep forgiving you. And where do we need to stop that and decide and demand that, no, I don't allow myself to be treated that way. I don't keep people like that in my life. So to love ourselves, I'd say one of the most important things we can do is to stop judging ourselves. Yeah. I once, a few months ago, I was leading a group that I host locally on tapping. And the topic of this particular meeting was on healing from depression. And I talked about, like, we got to stop being nasty and mean and judging ourselves. And someone in the group said, yeah, but that's really hard. That's really hard to do, Renee. And I said, yeah, I know it can be, but we can learn. We can get past this. We don't have to keep accepting this. It's sort of like, if you're going to say it's hard to not judge myself, it's almost like, do you want to judge yourself? Do you want to have a hard time? Do you want to feel bad? Instead, you can decide, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And yeah, sure, it will come up again. You will catch yourself, judging yourself, or maybe you're having an off day, or you're feeling kind of down or kind of negative, but you don't have to continue to accept that. If we are loving to ourselves, it's going to change who we are. We're going to radiate that out into the world, and people are going to respond to us in kind. If, we are negative and down on ourselves all the time, that's going to, show. People are going to feel that, and they're going to respond negatively. They're not going to give us the respect because they're going to feel your energy. So, would you judge your friend, your best friend, with the words that you put on yourself? Probably not. I hope not. I would say no, you wouldn't. But then why is it okay for us to just beat ourselves up or to judge ourselves when we have a feeling come up? So if maybe you're nervous or you're scared about trying something new, and then you feel that nervousness, you feel a little bit of fear just because it's a new experience, but at the same time, you're judging yourself for having that feeling. No need to judge. That's not going to do anything. But instead, just let yourself feel the feeling. No need to say, well, I should never be afraid. I should just be perfect. And, I should be fearless. No, you're going to have feelings come up. Let yourself have them. You're going to have experiences maybe where you felt like you didn't do as good of a job as you had hoped, or you wish you had performed better, whatever the situation. But we can feel that. Cool. All right. And maybe those feelings are uncomfortable or painful for a temporary short time, but we don't have to judge ourselves for that. We don't have to look in the mirror and say, oh, getting older, fat, ugly, Instead, as I once heard Brene Brown say, look in the mirror and say, oh my God, awesome. Yeah. Look at that rockin' body, or, whatever it is that you want to say to yourself that's going to make you feel good. Don't argue for, hey, this not judging myself stuff, that's going to be hard. I can't do that. Argue instead for, I'm going to be really nice to myself. I'm going to feel good. I'm going to do my best. And some days they'll be better. Some days might be tougher, and that's okay. Okay, the next thing. Okay, yes, love your inner child. And if you've been watching my videos, I've been talking about loving the inner child because it's so important. I have to admit, there was a time when I heard about inner child work and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I just kind of rolled my eyes. So if you're feeling that as you're listening, I get it. I understand. I am such a proponent of loving your inner child now because it has been so paramount to my own healing, and I know that it can help others as well. And I've seen it work. I've worked with my own clients on this too. Love your inner child, that little boy or girl within you that did not get that love, that didn't get the approval, that didn't get the permission to just be who they were. Who maybe was told, no, you can't be interested in theater and drama. We play sports in this house. So you tried to change who you were to please someone. That's what I'm talking about. Letting that little version of you know that they are lovable, that they're okay. And when we don't judge ourselves and instead we talk to ourselves nicely, that is nurturing and loving to our inner child. It's giving ourselves what we never got as children. That is also, and I'm kind of blending this in with my next point, reparenting yourself. Reparenting yourself means maybe where you might have gotten criticized for being a certain way or doing a certain thing, you stop doing that because you don't have to do that anymore. All of this stuff I'm talking about centers around having self-awareness that we're doing it to begin with. And sometimes that takes time to realize that what we are doing. And then it also takes conscious effort. It takes a ton of faith and a ton of courage and stepping out into some different ways and saying, that's what I learned. That's how I learned to talk to myself. That's how I learned to treat myself. This is what I would normally do in this situation. I'd beat myself up for hours or days because I made a mistake or I didn't get something right, or maybe something fell apart that I was trying to make happen. And instead, what I'm going to do is to not be so hard on myself. I'm going to say, you tried your best. You're learning, you're growing. Again, would you, if your best friend, were talking to you, you would say something loving and nice and encouraging. You would not say, well, you totally screwed that up. You're worthless and all these put downs and all these mean things. You're a loser and who would want to be around you? You wouldn't say that. So don't say that to yourself either. Start to talk to yourself nicely. Okay. And the other thing about how we can heal codependency and cultivate self-love is to put yourself first. And I almost want to say, like, if you were like sitting in front of me and we were having a conversation, what response came up in you, or what feeling came up in you, what words came up in you when I said that? Put yourself first. Oh my God, that's so selfish. Oh, you're so narcissistic. You're self-absorbed. Right, if that kind of thing is coming up in you, that tells you something right there. Putting yourself first doesn't mean you don't help anyone. It doesn't mean you don't think of anyone else. It doesn't mean that you don't give to others. Because if you are codependent and you don't know how to fill yourself up, you give too much to everyone else and not to you. You have the opposite problem that some people have. You have the opposite of, you're giving too much from an unhealthy place and to an unhealthy degree. We need to pull that back in, dial that back in, and learn how to give to yourself. So instead of living to please and please and please someone else, you say, hey, I'm not going to last if I can't recharge my battery, or if I can't give to myself, if I can't make myself whole and complete first. If I don't take care of myself, I won't be able to be there for you. I mean, of course, especially if you have kids, you have all these different demands on your time, or if you're taking care of an older parent, you got to compromise and be creative, and you have a lot to juggle. You have a lot going on. But for the most part, we need to remember to, figure out what makes us happy, what makes us tick, what makes us excited. And to know that taking care of ourselves is not selfish. You cannot live exclusively for one other person. You can't say, I exist to please this other person and that is my sole purpose in life. But that's what can easily happen if you are codependent, because you are giving to others with the intention of getting love back from that person, because you aren't giving it to yourself. And that's the catch. That you are giving from unhealthy reasons because you haven't learned to do it for yourself. Your giving is conditional. Your giving is conditional with the hopes that you're going to get something back that you have not learned to give to yourself. So those are about 4 or 5 things or so to help you learn how to fill yourself up. Stop judging yourself, love your inner child, reparent yourself, and start to put yourself first. Cultivate self-awareness, and as you do that, make some new choices. Make some, you're creating new neural pathways in your brain. It's gonna feel weird. It might feel awkward. You might, have a little bit of like, oh my God, that was so horrible of me. Oh, I should have given them this, and I should have done this, and should. And yeah, that might come up a little bit. But step back for a second and take perspective. Look at the situation as an outside observer and ask yourself, am I doing what's loving for myself? If so, yes, great. Okay. if you're feeling guilt come up, is this a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. You have to give to yourself before you can give to anyone else. You have to love yourself first before you can really truly love someone else. So, lots of stuff there. I hope that helps give you something to think about and maybe something to reflect about. Again, this is such a deep topic, and I will continue to do videos on this. So if you have questions or comments, leave it for me below. And as always, so good to have you along on this journey. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.